When you're building a team, the first thing most people think about is, who do I need? They start with roles, positions, titles, RA summes, and qualifications. But let me tell you, that's not where greatness begins. A winning team doesn't start with names on a chart. It starts with a vision. Because if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter who you bring along. You can have the smartest, most skilled people in the world, but if they don't understand the vision, if they don't buy into the mission, then all you've got is a group of talented individuals working in different directions. And you can't win like that. Vision is what unites people who might otherwise have nothing in common. Vision is what makes ordinary individuals step into extraordinary effort. Think about it. When people rally around a vision that's bigger than themselves, suddenly it's not about the paycheck. It's not about the recognition. It's not about the position they hold. It becomes about something greater, something meaningful, something worth giving their best for every single day. That's the power of vision. It takes selfish energy and transforms it into collective power. When you set out to build your team, you've got to ask yourself, have I painted the picture clear enough? Does everyone know why we exist? Do they know where we're headed? Do they feel it in their bones? Because if they don't feel it, if they don't see it, they won't fight for it. People don't commit to confusion. They commit to clarity. And clarity begins with vision. I'll give you an example. You can take a group of average athletes. Maybe they're not the fastest, not the strongest. Maybe they don't have the highlight reels. But if they share a vision of becoming champions, if they believe in that identity so strongly that they wake up every morning chasing it, they'll beat a team of superstars who don't know why they're even playing together. Talent without vision is wasted potential. Vision with average talent can become unstoppable. That's why, as the leader, you've got to breathe that vision into your team every single day. You can't say it once and assume it's enough. You've got to remind them over and over again who we are, what we're doing, and why it matters. You've got to carry that vision like a torch, and every time someone gets tired, every time someone feels like giving less, that vision reignites their fire. When the vision is clear, the work becomes meaningful. When the vision's alive, the sacrifices don't feel like losses. They feel like investments. And when the vision is shared, no one on the team feels alone. Everyone knows they're part of something bigger. That's the starting line of every winning team. Not the titles, not the roles, but the vision that makes those roles worth filling. So before you start filling seats, make sure you've built the destination. The mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to build a team is they start scanning for skill sets first. They want the most polished RA summe, the highest level of experience, the person who looks perfect on paper. But here's the truth: skills can be taught, mindset cannot. You can take someone with all the talent in the world, but if their attitude is wrong, if they're lazy, if they're entitled, if they don't believe in growth, they will drag the entire team down. On the other hand, you can take someone with less experience, but if they're hungry, if they're teachable, if they're disciplined and passionate about the mission, you can mold them into a champion. See, mindset determines how someone shows up every day. Skills just determine what they can do in the moment. A person with the right mindset is going to keep learning, keep improving, keep pushing past limitations. They'll stay late. They'll put in the extra reps. They'll ask the hard questions because they want to grow. But a person with the wrong mindset will do the bare minimum. And when things get tough, they'll crumble. That's why when I look at building a winning team, I'm not just asking, what can this person do? I'm asking, how does this person think? How do they respond to pressure? Are they committed when things get hard? Because the right mindset is what keeps the team strong when challenges come. Think about it. Skills are like tools. You can always add more tools to the box, but mindset is like the foundation of the house. If the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how many tools you have, the whole thing will collapse. That's why the greatest teams are filled with people who are aligned mentally, people who share the same hunger, the same discipline, the same drive. When you have that, even if they're still developing their skills, they'll catch up fast because their mindset won't allow them to stay behind. And as a leader, your job isn't just to spot talent, it's to spot potential. Potential lives in the mindset. You can tell when someone's coachable by how they receive feedback. You can tell when someone's hungry by how they chase opportunities. You can tell when someone's passionate by how they show up when nobody's watching. That's what you need to be looking for, because those are the people who will grow into leaders themselves. A team built on mindset is a team that can last. Skills may win short-term battles, but mindset wins the war. Skills may help you shine for a moment, but mindset keeps you shining when the lights go out. When you choose people who are hungry, disciplined, and coachable, you're not just building a team, you're building a culture of excellence that can't be shaken. So remember, don't just recruit for what's on the RA Summit. Recruit for what's in the heart and in the mind. One of the fastest ways to slow a team down is to let confusion slip in. When people don't know exactly what their role is, when they're unsure about what's expected, when they're stepping on each other's toes or waiting for someone else to move first, the whole team suffers. That's why clarity is everything. A winning team runs on structure, not guesswork. Everybody should know their lane, their responsibilities, and what success looks like for them. When roles are clear, there's no wasted energy, no unnecessary conflict, no gaps that leave the mission vulnerable. Think about it like this. If you're on a basketball court and nobody knows who's supposed to play defense, who's bringing the ball up, who's taking the shot, you don't stand a chance. Even if you've got great players, the game will be chaos. But when everyone understands their position, when they trust each other to handle their role, that's when the team flows. That's when the game feels smooth and unstoppable. The same principle applies off the court. Clarity in roles builds rhythm, and rhythm builds momentum. Now let's talk about accountability. A lot of people think accountability is about punishment, about calling people out when they mess up. But accountability is not about tearing someone down. It's about protecting the mission. It's about making sure everyone stays on track because the vision is too important to risk. Accountability is love in action. It says, I care too much about you and about what we're building to let you give less than your best. That's the kind of accountability that strengthens a team instead of breaking it apart. The truth is, accountability only works when clarity is already in place. You can't hold someone accountable for a job they didn't know they had. You can't demand excellence if you never define what excellence looks like. That's why it's the leader's job to make the target so clear that nobody has to guess. And once that clarity exists, accountability becomes a positive force. It creates ownership. It makes people proud to carry their weight because they know exactly how their piece fits into the bigger picture. When people know their role and they accept accountability, the team moves faster. There's no back and forth, no wasted time, no energy lost on blame or excuses. Instead, there's trust. You trust me to do my part. I trust you to do yours. And together we make progress. That's when you start seeing results stack up quickly because everyone is aligned, everyone is committed, and everyone is responsible for their own contribution. Clarity and accountability are not optional if you want to win. They are non-negotiables. They take the guessing out of teamwork and replace it with confidence. And a team that operates with confidence can achieve almost anything. So don't just hope people figure it out. Set the standard, make it clear, and hold each other to it. If you want to know what holds a team together, it's not money, it's not titles, it's not even talent. It's trust. And the way you build trust is through communication. When communication breaks down, trust breaks down. And once trust is gone, the whole team starts to fall apart from the inside. That's why communication is the glue that makes everything else possible. Without it, you can have vision, you can have talent, you can have structure. But none of it will matter because people won't feel connected. The strongest teams aren't the ones that never face conflict. Every team will face conflict. The strongest teams are the ones that can talk about it, work through it, and come out stronger on the other side. That only happens when communication is open and honest. Too many times, people hold things in, they stay silent, they avoid the tough conversations, and all that does is create distance. It builds walls. And once walls are up, people stop trusting each other, they stop sharing ideas, and they stop fighting for the same goal. But when you create an environment where people feel safe to speak up, safe to share their thoughts, safe to admit when they don't know something, that's when trust grows. And trust is powerful. When I trust you, I'll run through walls with you. When I trust you, I'll give more than I thought I had because I know you've got my back. That's what real communication produces. A deep bond that makes a team unshakable. Now, communication isn't just about talking. It's about listening. Some leaders think they've done their job just because they gave the speech or sent the message. But communication is two-way. You've got to hear your people, not just instruct them. You've got to understand what motivates them, what frustrates them, what they need to perform at their best. Listening builds respect, and respect is the soil that trust grows in. It also matters how you communicate. If every message is negative, if every word feels like criticism, people shut down. But when your communication balances truth with encouragement, when people know you see their effort as well as their mistakes, they stay engaged. They don't feel attacked, they feel invested in. That kind of communication doesn't just correct, it inspires. Here's the truth, no team survives on assumptions. You can't assume people know what you're thinking. You can't assume they understand the mission. You can't assume they're okay when they're not. That's why you talk. That's why you check in. That's why you create space for real conversations. And when that becomes the culture, the team doesn't just function, it thrives. So if you want trust, build it with your words, strengthen it with your actions, and protect it with your honesty. The quickest way to lose the respect of your team is to ask them to do something you're not willing to do yourself. People don't follow titles, they follow examples. You can have the position, you can give the orders, you can talk about what needs to be done all day long, but if your actions don't line up with your words, your team will see right through it. Leadership is not about talking people into working harder. It's about showing them what hard work looks like. When your team sees you show up early, stay late, put in the effort, and stay consistent, that inspires them more than any motivational speech ever could. Because people don't just hear what you say, they watch what you do. And actions carry more weight than words. If you preach discipline but live sloppy, no one will take you seriously. If you talk about sacrifice but never give up your own comfort, they won't buy in. But when you model the behavior you expect from others, you set a standard that becomes contagious. Think about the best teams in history. The leaders on those teams weren't always the most talented, but they were the ones who led by example. They hustled the hardest. They sacrificed the most. They stayed locked in when everyone else got tired. And because they set that tone, the rest of the team followed. That's how cultures of winning are built, not by commands, but by example. See, leading by example is powerful because it removes excuses. When your team sees you grinding, when they see you willing to carry the weight, when they see you live the same standard you're asking them to live, they can't say, it's too hard. They can't say, it's unfair, because you're in it with them. You're not above them, you're beside them. That creates respect that no amount of authority can buy. And here's the other side of it. When you don't lead by example, when you demand things you don't live, you create resentment. People will give less because they feel like you're asking for something you're not willing to give yourself. That's when trust erodes. That's when people disconnect. But when they see you sacrificing, they'll sacrifice too. When they see you giving your best, they'll be inspired to give theirs. At the end of the day, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic, consistent, and committed to the standard you set. Your actions should scream so loud that your team doesn't even need your words to understand what's expected. Because a team that sees their leader working with them, not just talking at them, will run through walls to achieve the vision. So don't just talk about it, be about it. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is only waiting for the big championship moment to celebrate. They think the small wins don't matter, that you only clap when the trophy is in your hand. But let me tell you, momentum is built on the little victories along the way. Every time your team takes a step forward, every time they overcome a small challenge, every time they push past something that used to hold them back, that's worth acknowledging. Because when people feel seen, when they feel like their effort is noticed, they stay fueled for the bigger battles ahead. Celebrating wins isn't just about throwing a party, it's about reinforcing the behaviors you want repeated. When you recognize discipline, consistency, creativity, or resilience, people start to realize this is what matters here. This is how we win. That creates a culture where progress is valued, not just perfection. And a team that values progress will keep pushing, keep growing, and keep finding ways to get better. Now, on the other side, we've got to talk about losses, because no team wins every time. No team is perfect. Failure is part of the journey. The difference between winning teams and losing teams is how they respond when things don't go their way. A losing team takes the hit, gets discouraged, points fingers, and starts falling apart. A winning team takes the same hit, but instead of breaking, they learn. They ask, what can we do better? Where did we fall short? How do we turn this into fuel for the next round? That's the mentality that keeps them moving forward. Losses hurt, but they also teach. Some of the best lessons you'll ever learn as a team won't come from the easy wins. They'll come from the tough losses. And if you can extract the wisdom from those moments without losing your belief, you become unstoppable. Because then the loss isn't wasted, it's invested. It becomes part of your growth. The key is balance. You can't let wins make you arrogant, and you can't let losses make you hopeless. Wins should build confidence, but they should also remind you that there's still more work to do. Losses should sting, but they should also remind you that you're still in the fight. Both are opportunities, one to reinforce, the other to refine. As a leader, your role is to set the tone. Don't just celebrate when the scoreboard says you won. Celebrate when someone shows growth, when the team communicates better, when discipline shows up in the little things. And when the loss comes, don't waste time sulking. Teach, adjust, and prepare for the comeback. That's how you keep the team locked in for the long run. So remember, both the wins and the losses matter, but it's what you do with them that decides how far your team will go. One of the greatest strengths any winning team can have is the ability to adapt. Because here's the truth, things will never go exactly as planned. You can spend hours designing the perfect strategy, mapping out every detail, preparing for every possibility, and still life will throw you something you didn't see coming. Markets shift, competition adjusts, unexpected problems show up, and suddenly the plan you thought was airtight starts to fall apart. That's where flexibility separates the good from the great. The teams that win aren't the ones who never face setbacks. They're the ones who adjust faster than everyone else. Adaptability is really about mindset. Some people get so locked into one plan that when it doesn't work, they freeze. They panic, they get frustrated, they blame each other. And before long, the whole team is stuck. But winners don't freeze. Winners look at the situation, accept what's happening, and shift. They don't waste time crying over what should have worked. They pivot into what will work now. That ability to change direction without losing sight of the ultimate goal is what keeps momentum alive. Think about it like driving. You've got a destination in mind. Along the way, maybe a road is closed, maybe traffic is heavy, maybe there's an accident that forces you to reroute. If you stay stubborn and refuse to adjust, you'll never make it. But if you're flexible, if you're willing to find another path, you'll still get where you're going. The route may look different, but the destination doesn't change. That's how a team has to move. Stay committed to the vision, but flexible with the process. Adaptability also requires humility. It means admitting when something isn't working and having the courage to let it go. Too many teams lose because they hold on to old strategies, old habits, or old systems that no longer serve them. They're more loyal to the plan than they are to the purpose. But great teams know when to pivot. They aren't afraid to try new approaches, to innovate, to experiment, because they understand that what got them here may not get them there. And here's the beautiful thing, when your team learns how to adapt, pressure doesn't break you, it sharpens you. Every obstacle becomes a chance to grow stronger. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every detour becomes part of the story. Adaptable teams don't just survive challenges, they thrive in them. They become resilient, creative, and unshakable because nothing catches them completely off guard. So if you want to build a team that wins fast, don't just teach them to follow a plan. Teach them to handle the unexpected. Because in the game of success, the most adaptable team is always the one that lasts. So stay committed to the vision, but never be afraid to adjust the path. Every great team has something deeper than just talent or strategy. It has culture. Culture is the invisible force that shapes how people think, act, and interact. It's the energy that fills the room, the standard that everyone feels, even when it's not written down. And if you want to build a winning team fast, you've got to protect that culture with everything you have. Because the truth is, culture can be built over years, but destroyed in a moment. One toxic person can do more damage than 10 great people can fix. You can have the most skilled individual on your team, but if they bring negativity, ego, or drama, they'll drain the whole group. And here's the dangerous part. It doesn't always happen loud and obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. A little complaint here, a little gossip there, a negative attitude that spreads slowly. Before you know it, morale is down, energy is gone, and trust starts to erode. That's why protecting your culture isn't optional. It's survival. When you protect culture, you're saying, this environment matters more than any single person. Because when the culture is strong, everyone thrives. People feel safe to give their best. They know they're respected, valued, and supported. They know that the team is a place where excellence is expected, but also where growth is encouraged. That kind of culture turns ordinary groups into families and families into dynasties. Protecting culture means setting standards and holding to them even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no to talented people who don't align with the values of the team. It means addressing negativity the moment it shows up, not letting it slide because someone happens to perform well. Winning isn't just about what happens on the scoreboard. It's about what happens in the locker room, in the meetings, in the day-to-day energy of the team. And the leaders who get that, the ones who prioritize culture, end up building teams that last longer and go further. But here's the other side. You also have to feed the culture you want. It's not just about removing the bad. It's about reinforcing the good. Celebrate people who bring positivity. Highlight the ones who lift others up. Reward those who show character, not just results. When you do that, you're teaching your team what really matters. You're showing them that success is not just about what they achieve, but about how they achieve it together. Because at the end of the day, skills may win games, but culture wins championships. Skills might help you build a team quickly, but culture is what helps you keep it strong for years. Protecting your culture is protecting your future. So guard the environment like it's your greatest asset, because it is.